Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you all to the start of a new year at COA. As the moderator of steering in the all-college meeting, I'm honored to be standing here as we gather for what is our first meeting of the college of the year, Convocation. Convocation marks the beginning of our journey together through another year of learning, growth, and collaboration. It's more than just a ceremony. It's an opportunity for us to reflect on the values that bind us together as a community and will set the tone for the months ahead. We come together to celebrate our shared purposes in just what makes College of the Atlantic so life-changing and world-changing. It's also times like these we remind ourselves what incredible potential we hold as individuals, as a group, and to make positive change in a pessimistic world. For many of you, especially those new to the community, Convocation probably, hopefully, feels like one of the first steps into a world of a possibility. This is a space when your ideas, your energy, and your voice can truly shape the direction of not only our campus, but the campus of future generations. Whether it be engaging in open dialogues, joining a club, or attending ACM or steering on Wednesdays, there are countless ways for each of you to participate in shaping the college in the way best for you. As moderator, one of my goals this year is to make sure that every member of our community feels empowered to get involved. The school thrives when we're unified, and sharing our perspectives and collaborating on solutions is how we begin to do that. Governance has never just been about decision-making. It's about building our relationships, furthering our inclusivity, and making sure your opinions are heard. I really do, from the bottom of my heart, encourage you to step forward, whether that be attending a meeting that interests you, creating a petition, or simply by asking questions. Your conscious engagement, not the one that feels forced, is what will keep the air of vibrancy and prosperous dynamics. This year, we have so many opportunities to make a difference, both here and on this giant spinning rock we call home. Together, we create value in every issue, big or small, and see what each one of us can bring to the table. Now, as we move into the academic year, I want to highlight a significant moment in our college's history: the introduction of our new president, Dr. Sylvia Torti. Sylvia is joining us as our 8th president, and we are so fortunate to have her with us. Sylvia brings with her a wealth of knowledge and experience that really speaks to the values and goals of our college. As an ecologist, author, and former dean at the Honors College at the University of Utah, she has devoted her career to bridging the gap between disciplines while creating an environment of collaboration and prioritizing experimental, interdisciplinary education. In her career, she has accomplished milestones such as diversifying student bodies, launching new curricula, and infrastructure development in the fields of ecology, health, and human rights, as well as establishing her center around diversity and equity. This proves an outright, genuine support for all of those under her watch, as well as a substantive understanding of what COA is all about. But beyond her professional experience, what stands out the most about Sylvia is her ability to lead with empathy. Coming from a bicultural Latinx background and having worked and lived throughout the world, Sylvia has insights that allow her to connect with anyone on a personal level. She understands the importance of empowerment and comfortability in individual and group growth, and inspires real-world applicable solutions in a time where our world desperately needs it. Forming offices to assist with student achievement and scholarship, and creating training programs around for real-world development, this further highlights the leadership we need to move together. With this, it's with great excitement and admiration that I ask you to please help me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Sylvia Torti.
Thank you. Thank you, Keenan, for those thoughtful remarks about this year we're embarking on and for that really lovely introduction. It was quite generous. First off, I want to welcome everybody, and most importantly, the class of 2028. Welcome to COA, and welcome back to all of you gathered here today. Looking around, I see an exhilarated community, students, faculty, staff, trustees, and friends, all of whom make COA so distinctive. I'm personally feeling a little bit high from the swim this morning. This is an almost 35-year tradition that was started by Professor Ken Klein, the Rockefeller Family Chair in Ecosystem Management and Protection, and 4 students. And as the story goes, when the pier was being built in 1990, the school really didn't have any boats, and there were students grumbling about, why did the school spend all that money on that pier? We don't really even have boats. And one of the students said, well, at least it'll be a good place to walk out and jump in for a swim. And so they decided to do just that. They walked down to the pier, they stripped off their clothing, and they swam out to the island. And that was the beginning of what we all experience today. I'll admit that as lovely as that story is, and this long tradition is, I still have been stressed these last few weeks about this swimming in freezing cold water. And during more than one stroke, I questioned their, and I guess all of our sanity. There's a story written by Rob Levin in 2015 about the swim's 25th anniversary, where Ken is quoted why he loves the swim. He says, and I quote, "It epitomizes some of what we want our students to do with their education. We want them to try something that they haven't done before that might be a little bit scary, a little bit uncomfortable." Okay, Ken, he's out in the Great West right now, but I will tell him when I see him, you're right, it was a bit scary, it was uncomfortable, and I realized that I was swimming in inefficient zigzags and that I was also outside of my comfort zone. I also agree with Ken when he said, and I quote again, "Students get a really clear idea that first day that they're not going to some other school. They're going to College of the Atlantic." Well, this is a first day for me too, and I certainly got a really clear idea that I am not president of any other liberal arts college. I am president, happily so, of College of the Atlantic. Okay, thank you, yes. Okay, so today, Convocation, this is the day we officially welcome new students to college. We mark the moment in your lives when you're moving to a new chapter. To acknowledge your arrival, I'd like to tell you a little story and some thoughts that it provoked about the college years. And then at the end of my remarks, I would like to read a poem that resonates deeply with me right now. But this story is about my son, Adrian. A few years ago, after a gap year after high school, he was getting ready to go off to a small liberal arts college in Indiana. And he called me, and he invited me to dinner. And he said he wanted to talk, all good things. He said it would be his treat, that he'd been working and saving money, and he even said he wanted my advice about college. I was thrilled. I mean, at that point in our relationship, we mostly talked about car engines, filmmaking, and the brilliance of Kendrick Lamar lyrics, all of which I knew very little about, and some of which the cars I had no interest in. So we walked down the street to our favorite sushi place, and he said, "I'm anxious." And he said, "It's just this huge commitment, starting this new chapter of my life." And then he said, "I know it's gonna be so much harder than high school, and I'm afraid." And then he admitted, "I don't like it when I don't know the answers." I laughed, and I almost said, "Get used to it," but I didn't say that. I realized, though, in fact, we were not really talking about college, we were talking about life. So I told him what a mentor and educator had recently shared with me, something she tells anxious first-year students. College? The recipe's pretty simple. You show up, you do the work. You don't feel like going to class, you go anyway. You can't figure it out on your own, you ask your professors for help. Guess what? Not only is it their job to help you, they want to engage you. That's why they chose this exact profession. You and your questions, your ideas, your growth are what give their lives meaning. Life, though, that's what he was really thinking about. The problem was and is, I don't have the answers about life. And if I did, they wouldn't have been his answers. We talked a bit about college, different majors. He was interested in psychology, philosophy, economics, photography. He ate a great deal of sushi, and then he said, I forgot my wallet. And so I paid for dinner. Later that night, I reflected on his questions, and the next day, I wrote him a letter, which I'd like to share with you. I said, "Adrian, life is a mystery and an adventure. Approach it as such. You, the explorer, have just arrived at college, and in your cases, to COA, a place buzzing with some of the most creative minds in the world today, a place full of energy, goodwill, intellect, and passion. Be part scientist, part anthropologist, part philosopher, part artist, and approach this place as an explorer would. To do that, you need a few tools. Here are 5 to slip into your backpack. Curiosity, number 1. Be curious about how the world works. Not knowing the answers That's the fun part. It's why I love science so much. Science is really cool because it's a discipline where you're granted permission to be wrong, because it's only really through being unequivocally wrong to rejecting that hypothesis that you move the collective understanding forward. And all fields have that dynamic. Explore widely and find areas of study or problems to be solved. Whatever excites you, dig in. 2, open your mind. Resist being judgmental. Care about what's underneath the veneer of other people. Care about what drives their perspectives. A college education obliges you to enter into dialogue with others who think and live differently. At the same time, delve into yourself a bit deeper. Find out whether the assumptions or ideas you're currently holding are merited. 3, cultivate humility. Resist the urge to be the smartest one in the room. The Greek poet Aeschylus claimed that learning always causes suffering. Get used to being uncomfortable. What we're offering you is meant to be challenging. Be okay with the discomfort that comes from thinking hard, not knowing, and speaking honestly with others. And 4, then there's the commitment that he was so worried about. And I said, oh, commitment. And I said, I told him that I heard when you said you were worried about commitment. Well, when you consider that idle curiosity is worthless, then you realize that you need discipline to learn what you need to know. You need discipline to turn your curiosity and passions into something useful to yourself and the world. Don't be afraid of commitments. Make them, keep them, and move on. You aren't marrying a single course or a club or a place to live for that matter. What's required is that you commit to them fully while you're in it. You can reevaluate and commit to something else. A new idea, other courses, a new house next time around. But while you're there, commit and be fully present. And finally, easy to say, and I said it, develop resilience. Figure out how to capitalize on your stumbles and even your rejections. And I told him about this friend I have who's an architect. He's creative, he's a little odd, he's actually very odd. He's a partner in a very successful firm, and when I first met him, I was enthralled with how he could take some incoherent thoughts from a potential client, that client was me, and turn them into conceptual drawings that told a story, how he turned words into pictures that represented the person's dream house or a company's productive office space, or in my case, the university's aspirations for a field station. Being around him, I came to realize, though, that while those skills are necessary for him to do his job, which is also his passion, there's something else that is important to his success, and that, ironically, is failure. Early on in our friendship, he would call me up and he'd say, we're finalists for this job, and I'm so excited, we've been drawing, it's perfect, we're gonna get it. And then 2 days later, I'd get an email, the job went to another firm, I'm destroyed, I'm depressed, and I'd write back a little heartfelt condolence. And then 2 days later, I'd get another email. We're working on a new project. I'm excited. It's super special. It's really difficult because of the location, or the client has put certain parameters on us. Because my friend is a problem solver, he really likes this. It's, like I said, his passion. And so it's gone ever since I met him. His firm succeeds in getting some work. They are, after all, pretty successful. But there are a lot of rejections. When I asked him about this, he said, well, we didn't listen closely enough. Or I realized later that my design was weak. He, I believe, is living a good and rewarding life because he identified a passion, developed the skills to be good at it, because he pushes himself. He tries not what's easy, but what's hard. And finally, because he's learned to capitalize on rejection, how to take every experience and turn it into a way to learn something new. Those are intellectual adventures, I wrote to Adrian, but there are other adventures I hope you have. Personal, emotional, physical, romantic. Engage them all. I also know from personal memory, and I've been reflecting on my first year of college recently, and from teaching a first year colloquium for many years, that most of us spend a good deal of our time during college mulling 2 key questions. First, the big profound question, how am I going to live my life? The second is the anxiety-provoking practical question, how am I going to make a living? So let's take them in reverse order and get the anxiety out of the way. Making a living is a valid concern, but let me reassure you, there is a formula. Start with the talent, curiosity, and energy each of you brings to COA. Add broad coursework, your internships, your senior project, and the other opportunities available at this great college. The result is you will find your path. It might be short and straight, it may be long and winding like mine, but it will lead you to a successful professional life. How do I know that? Because I've spent the last 9 weeks connecting with remarkable COA alumni who are doing work that gives them meaning and is meaningful for our world. But you're here for more than that. You're here to become equipped to lead a life that rewards you in every way, not just materially, but intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. To get there, you need to learn what can only be learned as part of a community, in the context of being a community member and grappling with environmental, economic, and social challenges. It's both, I think, an exciting and challenging time to be alive. You've been invited to join the COA community in order to take on the challenges and contribute to one another's educations in real and unique ways. And indeed, this opportunity is accompanied by a responsibility to do so. This year, ask yourselves to be brave enough to step outside your comfort zone. We already did that this morning. Be brave enough to challenge your perceptions of yourself, of others, and your culture. The more you take on hard subjects and uncomfortable realities, the greater understanding and empathy you'll cultivate in yourself. You'll be better equipped to live in this globally connected, diverse, complicated, and often tricky world. And ultimately, I hope you put your talents and energies to work in the service of a better one. So I will say to all of you here today, you are now part of the COA community, and I am so very happy you're here. We are all celebrating your arrival and your return back to college. Let's all throw ourselves into this adventure, learn from it, add to it, criticize it, and do what I believe is the calling that each of us has at any age, in any place in life, to consciously try to leave this place, this community, this institution better than we found it. And now to finish, I'd like to read you a poem by Richard Blanco. Richard Blanco was here this summer for COA's Summer Institute on Questions of Democracy, and he was captivating, both in his readings of his work and the discussions around poetry, democracy, and the poetics of making meaning in a country that has not always felt welcoming to him. Born in Madrid to Cuban exiles and raised in Miami, Blanco is the author of 4 collections. His most recent one, How to Love a Country, I highly recommend. And he was the 5th inaugural poet in US history for President Barack Obama. This poem from 2018 is called Declaration of Interdependence. Such has been the patient sufferance, where a mother's bread, instant potatoes, milk at a checkout line, her 3 children pleading for bubble gum and their father, were the 3 minutes she steals to page a tabloid, needing to believe even stars' lives are as joyful and bruised. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. Were her second job serving an executive in a shark gray suit, absorbed in his Fortune magazine at a sidewalk cafe? Were the shadow of skyscrapers like giant chess pieces in a game he bet his family on and lost? Were the lost? Were a father who can't mine a life anymore in a town where too much, too little has happened for too long? A history of repeated injuries and usurpations. Were the grit of his main streets blacked out windows and spray-painted truths, or a street lined with royal palms, home to a Peace Corps couple who now collect art in winter in Aruba? Were there dinner party talk of wines and picket signs once wielded, retirement accounts and draft cards once burned? Were there knowing it's time to do more than read the New York Times, buy fair trade coffee and grass-fed beef? In every stage of oppressions, we have petitioned for redress. We're the canned corn of a farmer who plows into his couch as worn as his back by the end of the day. We're watching news having everything, nothing to do with the field dust in his eyes or his son nested in the ache of his arms. We're his son, and a black son who drove too fast or too slow, talked too much or too little, moved too quickly but not quick enough for a bullet. We're our dead, our blood-stained blackboards, dance floors, church pulpits. We mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. We're the living who light vigil candles and the cop who didn't shoot. We're the inmate with his volunteer teacher diagramming sentences, the Buddhist alongside the stockbroker serving soup at the shelter. We're the grandfather taking a selfie with his grandson and his husband, the widow's 50 cents in the collection plate, and the golfer's $10,000 pledge for a cure. We hold these truths to be self-evident. We're them, they're you, you're me, we're us. A handshake, a smile, good morning on the bus, a door held open, a seat we give up on the subway. We tend restrooms or sell art, make huevos rancheros or herb salmon, run for mayor or restock shelves, work a backhoe or write poems. We're a poem in progress. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people, to fulfill the promise of being one people, necessary to abolish any government that becomes destructive of these ends, necessary to dissolve the political bands that keep us from speaking to each other, necessary to avow our interdependence, to look straight into each other's eyes the way we behold the moon and declare to one another, I see you, I see you, I see you.
As we embark on this new academic year together, I encourage you to take the energy of today and carry it forward in your relationships, in your coursework, and your community involvement. Let's make this a year of growth, discovery, and community for us all. Welcome to the 2024-2025 school year, and thank you for being what makes College of the Atlantic such a special place. Let's make it a good year.